So here are just some of the statistics taken from Global Gates, which has done a lot of research on unreached peoples groups. So we happen to have Los Angeles with 113,900 Iranians. And the Iranians themselves call it Tehrangeles rather than Los Angeles. Toronto as well has a high concentration. You got Riverside, Washington, New York, Vancouver, San Francisco, Chicago here. And these are just the Iranians that are located. With here in the Chicago area, 5,500 concentrated, particularly in Lincolnwood in Chicago. So these are the areas in which you'll be beginning to see Christians or Iranians becoming Christians and then starting house fellowships. But it becomes a large estimate of the types of Muslims that we have that are unevangelized that need to be reached for Christ. And just in the LA area in Orange County, there are about 12 churches, I believe, Iranian churches.
In San Jose, there are more.
Okay. So yeah, it's rather remarkable. And as far as for Turks, we happen to have quite a few Turks that are here. And Toronto, New York, Houston, Montreal, Washington, Los Angeles are where the Turks are. There is a Turkish community here. There is a huge Turkish center up near Arlington Heights area, as well as the Turkish center in Wheaton. And these people have actually become refugees in the United States. They are part of the Gulen movement. And Erdogan in Turkey, the president there, said that these people are terrorists and revoked their citizenship. And they were doing schools all across the world. And now all of a sudden they are refugees. So when Mike was talking, he was talking about going to that Turkish center, which is the Gulen people, and doing a book study. They're very open to discussing. And interesting thing with the Gulen people, they are very much into dialogue. They are not into proselytizing. They're very much into wanting to understand other people. Then we have the Jewish as being one of the large unreached people groups. And New York City, surprisingly, is where the largest number of Jews are located. But we have a huge one on the north shore of Chicago that is unreached with the gospel. So we have them from all different countries, from Hungary, Romania, Galicia, Poland, Russia, Ukraine. But they're all over here, and particularly here's a map of New York City where the Muslims or the Jews are located. So with 5.8 million adults in the U.S. are Jewish, and then 4.2 say, I'm Jewish by religion. 1.5 says, well, I'm Jewish by heritage. Others are just like, I could care less about religion, but there is a way that there are people that are open to the gospel to be able to be reached for them. So here we have sort of the statistical background of where they fit, with the largest, 5 but Jews by religion, 4.2 million fall into that category, and then the other ones from the other one down. So this is as well one of the areas that we need to realize that when we go, we need to share. Our son was being worked or being seen by a Jewish doctor. And we tried witnessing to him. It's kind of interesting. He was also very much religious. So he saw that we were Christians, so he would throw in Bible things in the process. So it was kind of interesting. He was like, you know the Bible, and it says this. But yeah, we were trying to share the gospel across the way. And then unreached people group in Detroit, Chicago, and Los Angeles is one of the areas that Global Gates has been focusing in on. But the Vaughan area, you have quite a few. So Bridgeview with the Moroccans, but it gives you an idea. And you can go to this website if you want to find out where these people are, and they're trying to locate the people specifically in what neighborhoods and what areas. And one of the areas for reaching Muslims is the western suburbs of Chicago, is where the majority, Bridgeview area here, as well as then Skokie, is the areas on the north side where you got the Bosnians, but here Skokie with the Pakistanis, and then down in Lincolnwood with the Persians. So this gives you a sort of an idea just here in the Chicago area where they're at. And then as far as for unreached people groups, you have 15% with Jews, Sikhs at 8%, Muslims 44% in 34 cities, Hindus at 31%, and Buddhists at 2%. And this just gives you an idea of the peoples that are here that are unreached, that we need to be considering what we can do to reach out to them. And a lot of things that we study here and what we talk about are ways of connecting with people and sharing the gospel. So one of the things was, what do we need to do? And I would say what we heard today from Emmanuel, he was partnering with an ethnic congregation and helping them get established. And I think that's an important part of coming alongside many of these groups to help them navigate just the process of establishing a church. And this partnership, I think, is one of the key steps that we can come in, rather than saying, okay, if we're going to reach the unreached people, where do we start? Probably the best place is to start with them and come alongside them and what they are doing. And then you'll be introduced to an entire new layer of society that you never knew existed. Number two is try to find a person in your congregation, preferably somebody with cross-cultural experience. And it seems that most of us here have had cross-cultural experience. And one of the things that was interesting, my wife, when we were moving to the Chicago area, we were looking at houses. And anyone that was an American was non-interesting to us. But if we went into a house and it was an ethnic person, we were engaging them and talking with them. We were noticing all the things on the walls and everything. I mean, it was just our worldview. And that was just kind of an interesting, just sort of on our own selves. But this could be working with anybody who has had cross-cultural experience. It could be somebody with short-term teams that have been sent over as doing short-term teams, trips. Could be a person who's previously been involved in refugee ministry or cross-cultural ministry domestically. But those that have reached out and had kind of a ministry experience outside are going to be more open to this type of thing. And we would suggest in your church trying to identify these people and bring them together and think and pray about what can be done. So what we do is number 3 is the point person gathers interested people within the congregation. In one sense, what we are doing here is the same kind of thing of people who are interested in cross-cultural ministry and doing equipping and training, praying together, encouraging one another, just to be able to do this. And then pray and plan for different things. So what we've said, okay, we want to reach Afghans. Let's go with Repeat Boutique. Let's go with World Relief. Let's do something together. Let's get out of just where we're at and discuss how we're going to engage and begin that plan, and then start to engage in resettling with either an agency or a ministry that is working and serving refugees. So this would be different than what missions groups tend to do, which is we will support missionaries, we will get prayer letters, and we will make sure that they are supported. And then when they come to the States, to give a report to the congregation. Would it be better to add another dimension to the missions committees, if you will, those that are interested in missions, to say, okay, let's partner with some other people, let's find and identify people in our church that have had cross-cultural experience. Let's bring them together, plan and pray as to what can we do, and then begin to engage in some kind of way of outreach, which will definitely impact the church. For those of you that have been a part of Comma and have come to Comma, are you encouraged? Yes, encouraged. It's the type of thing where you encourage one another in regards to ministry, so that you're not doing this all alone by yourself. And then embrace, include refugees in the life of the congregation. And it could be doing something like in Wheaton, the Baptist Church had a apartment complex right to the north of it, and it was primarily all foreigners that were there, that were refugees or resettling, that type of thing. It was your class 9 housing. So they came and said, they plowed up part of their nice yard and built a garden and said, let's make a garden for them, and invited the people to come over and garden, and then they engaged them. There was a church in Aurora that did the same thing, and they had all kinds of people doing this, and they had a much larger plot of land. But it was a way to engage the people in the community that came in, that were being resettled by World Relief, to provide a place for them to get and produce their own food, but also a place for them now to interact with Americans that they were desperately wanting to do. So it could be this gardening, it could be mentoring groups, it could be holiday dinners, it could be a Sunday service. One church in Houston found out that an Afghan was there, had been working with the U.S. Troops over there. And he said, did anyone ever thank you for your service to the military? And he said, no. He said, can you get all your friends? We want to have a service just to say thank you for your service for our military. And they had an entirely huge group of people that came together, and they just wanted to bless them, pray for them, and thank them for their service. So that was sort of this kind of service idea of small groups, but it can be a great way of engaging the community in a way that is not just evangelism, but a way to treat them as human beings with dignity and respect. For me, one of the things that definitely catches my attention is this verse in Revelation 7. And after this I looked. And if you can remember, the Apostle John is on the island of Patmos. He's locked, can't go anywhere. He's in jail. And he sees this revelation, and it's, if you've got your computers and you got windows, you can go from one window to the other. You know, tabs, you just hit a tab and it takes you to another window. And it was for him. He says, boom, I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, in language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes. They were holding palm branches in their hands. This was at the beginning of the movement of God. And for him, God just opened the curtain and said, can you see what's coming? And he wrote it and said, this is our future. And what I'd like to say as well, we're taking a look in this brief survey of what is happening in the history and hitting the tab and saying, right now in the United States, we have people that no one can count from every nation, tribe, people, and language. And will we be a part of those that will engage them so that they will be wearing the white robes and holding palm branches and praising God? So my friend, as he's going back to his home country, he's caught this vision. He goes, I just want to be Jesus's light to my family. And that's what I want to do. So even in his Uber job, it was, this is the place where I can shine with people. And he's told several different stories where God has opened these conversations. It's not when the short runs that happens, but usually in a typical longer run, he gets to know the people. But that should be our mentality as well. Well, good. Let's close in a word of prayer. Lord, thank you for the time we've had together. Thank you just for the things that we've learned today. We've prayed about great concerns, what is happening in the world. And we know that your Spirit is in the process of moving and working among us. We pray that you would continue to increase our vision, increase our understanding, and that you would use us in the way to be light among those that are among us. For we want to see your kingdom grow. For we ask this in Christ's name.